Hey everyone, it's Nate here. This episode of The Vinyl Guide is brought to you by our friends at AudiofileUSA.com. AudiofileUSA.com has the cleanest of clean records, the holiest of grails, because they only sell excellent and near mint vinyl records. I get a ton of records from AudiofileUSA.com, and they always look great, they always sound perfect, and they ship directly to my front door. But here's the thing, there's lots of great deals when you dig into the website. Don't just look at the front of the website, their new stuff that they got, but dig in. Search by your favorite bands, go through your favorite albums, even browse their site by label and genre. You'll find a ton of stuff you may not run across, and it's in perfect shape. So dig into AudiofileUSA.com, find those special deals, and have them shipped directly to your front door. That's AudiofileUSA.com. Go there now and find your holy grail. And this week's show is also brought to you by Seams Easy Record Jacket Repair Strips. You got some great vinyl around, but that has ratty sleeves. Well, you could fix those seam splits with the Seams Easy Record Jacket Repair Strip. Seams Easy Record Jacket repairs seam splits from the inside and turns a $2 record into a $20 collectible. So grab some spares over at SeamsEasy.com. That's Seams Easy, 2 Z's, SeamsEasy.com. Grab a pack of 10 or 25, or if you're a shop, grab like 100. Keep them handy for when you get those ratty record jackets. That's SeamsEasy.com. All right, so let's get to the meat of this week's episode. This week we are speaking with guitar hero and heavy and hard rock legend, Mr. Michael Schenker. Now, Michael, as you know, is a guitar legend and outspoken on many issues. And today, he not only talks about his phenomenal new album, Immortal, but he also shares about a lot of other things too, including recording this album during the COVID lockdowns and the amount of time he had to spend in quarantine to make it the way he wanted. He also shares about his decision to abstain from listening to any music for the last several decades. It's a very interesting and very difficult choice he's made, which we'll explore today. Michael also shares about other bands he's been asked to work with, including Ozzy Osbourne replacing Randy Rhoads, Aerosmith replacing Joe Perry, and even Rush, which sounds quite incredible. Michael discusses a myriad of topics, but again, his new album, Immortal, is really, really good. I've got myself an advance copy, and you know me, I won't talk about something unless I 100% believe in it, and Immortal is the best thing I've heard out of Michael Schenker in years. Look, I grew up as a big MSG fan, seeing him initially on the Built to Destroy tour, following his career for many years, and Immortal seems like another career high point, perhaps a career best. I encourage you to check it out. There's a song available on streaming services you could jump in right now and listen to, and or you could jump on the website nuclearblastusa.com, order some of the limited edition vinyl issues. Again, Immortal by Michael Schenker, available in unique limited edition vinyl pressings at nuclearblastusa.com. And finally, if you enjoy this podcast, please consider joining our Patreon community, patreon.com/vinylguide. It helps support the show, helps keep us going, and at the same time gives you access to all sorts of extra stuff, including extended interviews, secret episodes, advanced podcasts, and heaps more. Just head over to patreon.com/vinylguide, sign up, sponsor for the level you can, and enjoy the benefits straight away. That's patreon.com/vinylguide, and thanks in advance for your support. And finally, if you like Michael Schenker and or hard rock, there are tons of other episodes of the Vinyl Guide you may enjoy as well, including episode 243 featuring Dave Lombardo of Mr. Bungle, Slayer, and Misfits, episode 230 with Robert Trujillo of Metallica talking records and more, episode 214 with Chuck Billy of Testament, episode 177 with Dave Menichetti of Y&T, episode 143 with Mark Evans of AC/DC and Rose Tattoo, episode 161 with Danko, Frick, and Jones, and many, many more. Subscribe and enjoy for free anytime on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Sonnet, or wherever you get your podcasts. And with the upfronts done, let's get straight into our interview with the immortal guitar god himself, Mr. Michael Schenker.
Hallo.
Hallo, wie geht's?
Good.
Is getting me gut?
Yeah, considering the circumstances.
Oh, well, I'm glad you switched to English because that's all the German I remember from high school.
Okay, that was good.
So how are you, Michael?
Yeah.
How's life treating you?
Yeah, like I said, considering the circumstances, I'm okay. It's just, I feel like I'm dreaming, because something like this I've never experienced before with the virus and all of that. It's just kind of a incredible, weird situation for all of us, but somehow that virus situation actually let me, the original plan I had to make this record 50th anniversary with guest musicians and tent musicians, etc. But it was dragging on, and then I realized I would not be able to release it by 2020. The thing was that the agent actually told me that, but Michael, your album was released in 72. So I said, so I have 2 years to celebrate and get it all together. So I had hope again, but I put together a compact lineup, with Ronnie Romero, who I discovered on We Are the Voice, the Resurrection album, and Barry Sparks, bass player, kept emailing me, Michael, I want to play the bass on the album. And I said, you got it. And so eventually, and Bodo Shop, Steve Mann. And so I had a compact band. And the idea was that Ronnie was going to sing all the songs, But because of the virus and the borders lockdown and all the usual travel that I do in my car, I couldn't go the usual route anymore via Belgium, France, Belgium, etc. I all of a sudden got stuck and didn't know how to get to Germany to the recording studio. And then my team found out that I can go, via Harwich, from Brighton and take a ferry and sleep overnight and then make it to the recording studio. And so eventually I got there. But I had to, every time I went back to the UK, I went there 4 times. Every time I came back, I had to go on 14 days quarantine, except for one time. I was lucky, and it actually ended up to be a total of 42 days quarantine. I mean, unbelievable.
My goodness. So you're telling me, I'm fascinated by this, and I've got a ton of questions, Michael. So let me try to get through these, because this album, Immortal, is fantastic. I mean, this is a career best for you. That's what I believe anyway. Now, this album was made live in a recording studio, or did you have any sessions where tracks were mailed in because of the virus?
Well, I always go. I never record anywhere else other than at Michael Voss's co-producer recording studio in Germany. And that's how it has always been. And I have to say that I'm actually blessed with all the musicians that I have as a compact band. They're all producers and engineers and have their own recording studio. Bodo Shop got scared by the virus, and, we had a big tour planned for Japan and with Simon Phillips and Bodo Shop on drums. It was a 5-hour program with a A and B set and, 2 times 5,000 seater. And there would have been a total of 10,000 like a Budokan, and then 2 times 2,000 each night in Osaka. But we had to cancel all of that. And so, but when we were rehearsing, Simon and Bodo actually got some info, because Simon is really, really good set up with his drums in Los Angeles. So I've been actually recording for many years like that, especially if I record with Simon Phillips or people who are, far away, but have their own professional great setup. And I tell you what, the sound that Simon gets in his studio is just like so convenient and amazing that I wouldn't even want him to be in the studio. And I must say to this that obsession with UFO, we actually wanted a ambient drum sound, and so Ron Everson found this warehouse old post office, and he rented a mobile recording studio. And so we actually had to play via monitor screen. We could only see them. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't matter if it's 5 meters away or 5,000 kilometers, as long as you have to, communicate having a monitor to see the producer, it doesn't make any difference. And so, that worked out, and people have the false idea about that and in fact, I never spent any time together with my musicians at the same time in a studio, because they talk, they make jokes, you lose concentration. I've done this for many years like that, and I'm very focused. And Michael Voss, we both together go bang, 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 bang. We have focus, and we only get the people in the studio when it's time for them.
So, Michael, I mean, this new album is tremendous, and I know you must be proud of it, because you picked this record to re-record what is probably your penultimate song in search of the peace of mind. What motivated you to re-record such a pivotal song for you?
Yeah, because it's my very first composition ever. When I was 15 years old, in my mother's kitchen, nobody was there. Michael Voss actually sent me the original credits for Lonesome Crow Scorpions, and it says Michael Schenker lyrics, Rudolf Schenker lyrics. I mean, we both had zero knowledge English. How could we have written lyrics? A complete misinformation. He should have said Michael Schenker music and whoever did the lyrics. And the title of that song, it was the first note I put on my ever first recording. So that is one of the reasons. And then the song was titled In Search of the Peace of Mind, which is the theme of my life, contentment and freedom, looking for contentment and freedom. And so it all together, being my first composition, the first note I put on a record, and the title itself, and plus the middle solo, when I was 15, was so perfect. I would never, ever change a note. I have no clue where it came from. I don't know why. You can hear on the rest of the album of Lonesome Crow that I'm developing, and then went to Phenomenon and Fawcett, UFO, and developed. But that solo, I don't know where it came from. I don't even think it came from me. I don't know how I was able to play a solo that I would never, ever replace again.
So with the song that personal to you, were you concerned or hesitant about trying to re-record and trying to capture that magic again?
No, I didn't want to capture that magic. I wanted to make it who I am today, with the exception of, quite a few exceptions. That first of all, I kept that perfect solo as a contribution to a phenomenal experience as a 15-year-old, that I was able to play a solo like that, where I would never change a note, ever. And it's like Stairway to Heaven or Leslie West Mountain, Theme of the Imaginary Restaurant. I would never change a note. So it sometimes happens. It comes from, I don't know, it just happens, But that was very important. And so I actually copied that solo as much as I could. It has a little bit of timing difference, but in general it's the same. But it's the way I did it. But I wanted to make it more. I wanted to make an epic out of it. And so, because it was such an important and my very first. And so I ended up putting a extreme long solo on the end with so many different emotions. And I used the howler, the wah-wah pedal, and bending strings. I mean, when I listened to it at the end, I kind of realized it was like the guitar was talking to each other. It was a bit like an inner conversation, about choices, and it actually describes my 50 years journey through music just on that solo.
It's goosebumps. So tell me a little bit about the song Drilled to Kill. That's the single that's out right now and everyone can hear. How did that song come together?
Well, Drill to Kill, of course, is in his face, and how it got together, it's a miracle, because I wanted Ronnie to sing it, but he wasn't available, and so we found Ralph, and then Brian Tichy calls up and wanted to make a contribution to Michael Schenker. Then he's called up again and said, Derek, a Sharanian, he wants to make a contribution to Michael. All of a sudden, everything just came by itself. And that song, Drill to Kill, is so in the face. And because I'm back to 16, 18, 20 years old, I did all my middle years experiments, with the acoustic instrumentals, electric instrumentals, etc., etc. So I was done with everything. I was fulfilled. And somehow my brain, the filing system, went back to, full circle, being 16, 18, 20 years old. And this particular song, when I heard, I haven't listened to music for 50 years, and my partner actually is a bass player, Amy. She suggested Ralph when Ronnie wasn't available because he didn't want to go on quarantine, and so I was blown away when I heard the voice. The moment we needed to find somebody else to sing that song because Ronnie wasn't available. When I heard the voice, I was blown away. And then with addition of Brian Tichy and Derek with a keyboard jam, which I've never done in my life before, it turned out really great. But there were so many different incidences, Ronnie, are you ready? And then he was afraid of the quarantine again. And so I said, don't worry about it. And then, we found Jolene Turner, and he did phenomenal, because all the songs are kind of so different. And there's so much color and so much variety in there. It's like even if people don't like a particular song, they find a song on this album they like.
It struck me as curious because I know in your history, you've made a conscientious decision not to listen to the music of others. And here on the Vinyl Guide, we generally talk about record collections and music collections of artists, but you don't have a music collection because you don't listen to other artists, right?
Correct.
So the pivotal records of your youth, I think you mentioned a few, Led Zeppelin and Mountain, some of the records you listened to when you were young. You still don't even listen to those anymore. You stopped completely. Is that right?
Stopped completely.
Wow. Now, how far do you take that? For example, if you're on a bill with other bands, do you spend time watching the other bands, or do you keep yourself away?
Keep myself away, far away.
So, for example, a lot of the modern music you're completely unfamiliar with. Have you ever heard an Eminem song?
What's that?
No Cardi B? You don't know what WAP is?
What is?
Okay, well, Google it. So let me ask you this. Were you familiar with the work of Eddie Van Halen?
Absolutely. And, actually Van Halen was supporting UFO at the Starwood. I was only 19 years old, and people actually said, there was a phenomenal guitarist, in that band that was supporting us. And, I was only 19 years old. It was early 70s. And I guess Eddie was in his developing time because the first album never came out until 80 or something like that, or 79. Mm-hmm. But you couldn't run away from it. It came out of every shop, every elevator, wherever you went. When I heard it, I went like, what on earth is this? It was so phenomenal, and I didn't know about tapping, and I was so I was very, very confused. How does he get this so smooth, And then later I found out, that he's doing the tapping thing, and then people actually totally trashed it because everybody was copying it, and then Eddie lost. But Eddie had more than that, and so it was the same with Yngwie Malmsteen. They are some of the the exceptions. Metallica, I heard in France in a boutique. The Unforgiven, while I was trying on clothes. I couldn't get away from it, but I went like, what a beautiful song, And so sometimes I discover stuff, but, I've never got the radio in my car. I never play music at my home. I don't have a record player or anything. I just don't. I mean, I'm a kid in a sandbox. I enjoy, I don't compete. I don't compare. I don't look for fame. I never looked for success or having girls run after me or whatever. I just was the happiest in the sandbox. And so after I opened the doors for the Scorpions for the Love Drive album for America, I went my own way and followed my own vision rather than following something that they were chasing, which I could have had if I had stayed with UFO, would have been one of the biggest bands in the world. And then I declined Ozzy Osbourne, Deep Purple, and Phil Lynott, Tennessee, but Ian Hunter, all the offers, because it's not what I wanted. I could have had it on my own without them. And I hate copying, so, I would have had to relearn all the songs that they had hits with in the past. But I love Ozzy. I love Ozzy. I love Deep Purple. I love Led Zeppelin. But I could not join them. It was not part of my vision. So my vision was to fulfill myself, and that's what I did.
Now, that's interesting because I understand after Randy Rhoads died, you had a phone call, an offer to join Ozzy's band. Is that right?
Absolutely. Middle of the night, he was stuttering. It must have just happened. I don't know. But I was very confused. You waking up and you have Ozzy Osbourne on the telephone. It's like, it was very confusing. And I said, let me think about this. And then, I was in the middle of getting ready for the Assault Attack album with Graham Bonnet and Cozy Powell. And then, of course, Cozy Powell joined Whitesnake, and we had Ted McKenna. But Cozy said to me, don't do it, Michael. We're doing a great album here. And so that was his input. But, for myself, I was actually, in between. I had a transition time after Love Drive that, Peter Mensch discovered that I was available, and he wanted to do big business with me, Cliff Bernstein and him, and they doing Metallica. And I lived with Peter Mensch for 2 years, and he sent me straight to Aerosmith to replace Joe Perry. And then I actually ended up to prepare for my first solo album. And I was actually, Peter Mensch said, like, the Aerosmith rhythm section is available. And I flew straight to Boston, and I started rehearsing with them. Then that guy comes in. He looked like the other guitarist of Aerosmith from a distance. It was a big rehearsal room. And he turned around, and he must have run to Steven Tyler Hospital because he wasn't well. Steven, you must get better. It's quick. Michael Schenker is stealing our rhythm section. And it was like, and then they got back together. And also Rush, which became very great friends of us, because UFO and Rush, we toured together a lot. And they wanted to help me. And then in the end, Peter Mensch found Simon Phillips and Mo Foster from the Jeff Beck group. And then, with the next MSG, then we did like the Budokan and live, focused on live. And he found Cozy Powell, and Paul Raymond was available, and so on. So it just kind of went really, really, really peculiar.
So you had an offer to join Rush at one point, it sounds like. Is that right?
Well, it was like Rush actually invited me to the recording studio in the UK. And as I came over there, I was speaking to, I said, Geddy and Neil Peart, would you be able to help me with my solo album? He said, absolutely, but I felt a bit bad for Alex, because he was just kind of looking at me speaking to them. And I even made a kind of a sick joke, like, oh, and Alex can do the coffee or something. I don't know, something like that. But it wasn't a good joke, though. But the main thing is, I love Alex. He is fantastic, and I mean, in his own way, and he is a great friend. And it just went through so many different possibilities. I had the very first thing Peter Mensch thought of was Sammy Hagar, Danny Kamasi, and Michael Schenker. And then it turned into Billy Sheehan and Danny Kamasi, and then and then almost Aerosmith's rhythm section, then the Rush thing, and then it ended up with Simon Phillips and Mo Foster.
Wow, so many people have wanted you in the band or to play with you. What other bands have asked you to join or at least collaborate?
So many. I mean, I tell you, Deep Purple '93 was the very difficult, because Deep Purple and Zeppelin and Black Sabbath. I mean, I declined the people that I was fan of. That's the unbelievable thing, But I had to be strong to stay true to myself. And sometimes, sometimes you get tempted. But I always had to remember, Michael, you left UFO for a reason. What was the reason? And Michael, you did not go with the Scorpions. What was the reason? The reason was pure self-expression and follow my own vision. You cannot be somehow sidetracked by something that will promise you something that most people would go for, but I am not really interested, and the fear always was I would have to kind of sell out and lose my own vision, and I didn't want to lose my own vision.
It must have been incredibly tempting, though.
Absolutely. I tell you, I don't deny it.
So in the modern era, there are a lot of guitar players that are quite well known and very good. There's Jared James Nichols, there's Doug Steele of Alarum. It sounds like these are names that you wouldn't be familiar with, no?
No, I'm not.
Do you listen to your own music?
No.
Okay.
Unless I have to get ready for a tour, and I have to remind myself what I did.
Is that a bit of a process these days? Going back, listening to Captain Nemo again?
I hate to even copy myself. It's so hard to copy myself because I'm always in and out of time. And everything that I do is so emotional and so out of nowhere. It is so hard to really really hard work. To stay familiar with what I've done in the past and recreate that. But the good thing about it is I always add something new to it, and I understand that it's stupid to play exactly the same thing I played in the past, because people might as well just listen to record. But I keep the major melodies, and it's like in Rock Bottom, for instance, or any other songs that are really important parts of my guitar playing, melodics, melody lines and stuff like that. But I somehow give myself the freedom to do it a little bit more like the way I am today.
Tell me this, Michael. Another story I've heard is that you got all your tattoos on your body in a single day. Is that right?
Not a single day, but in a more or less 2 months.
Okay.
And that was it. The year 2000, that was it.
It just occurred to you that you wanted tattoos? That was your focus for a couple months?
I had ideas of what I wanted, like that was very important to me. And so I actually even ended up with a Mercedes star, and then put later, because I'm a Mercedes fan, and I put later underneath the Mercedes star, not important, but God is.
Okay. You start out with the logo and then modified it.
Yeah, first was the Mercedes star, and then I realized that, Michael, this is stupid. This is just a bloody materialistic thing. There is more.
A logo.
There is more to life than Mercedes. I love Mercedes, but I love God more.
Now, UFO especially those albums in the mid 70s are so phenomenal and so legendary, especially for rock and metal. In those particular albums, which one are you most proud of?
It doesn't go that way. You know, my whole development as a guitarist, including the middle years of experimenting and what I'm doing now, it's a book. It's a book of developing from an amateur or from someone who never touched the guitar before up to this day. Is a continuous development.
Mm-hmm. So those songs from the early part of your life, you would find them simple, maybe?
I don't go by songs. You know, my focus is the single string. I'm fascinated with the single string, putting three notes together, create goose pimples. Dr. Doctor started as an instrumental. Love to Love started as an instrumental. Try Me started as an instrumental. There are so many songs that started as an instrumental. Phil Mock heard it and said, like, wow, Michael, I love this. Can you take the instrumental off and give me the main chords so I can do something with it? So many, you know, my focus was always the single string.
And from what I understand, Strangers in the Night has 0 guitar overdubs. All that was played live. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I wish I could have overdubbed those 3 or 4 wrong notes that were happening in Rock Bottom that nobody even noticed.
Well, those are the sort of things that build the character, you know, and which is probably one of the reasons why Strangers in the Night is considered such a great live album, because it has all the great moments and even a few of the flaws that you get with live music.
But even the wrong notes, they have to be there today. I mean, if you take them out, people are going to be disappointed. They got used to mistakes. This is incredible.
Of course. That wrong note at the end of Led Zeppelin Rock and Roll. It's like that. So, look, Michael, again, thank you for spending time with us. The new album, Immortal, is fantastic. I really am enjoying this. And again, I'm not just saying this because it's you on the phone, but I think it is a career high. I'm really enjoying it. And I know that there are vinyl copies available at nuclearblastusa.com. There's splatter copies of it. There's the half and half black and white Michael Schenker trademark colors available. So there's limited numbers. So go over there to nuclearblastusa.com to pick those up. Even though Michael's not listening to his music, that doesn't mean that everyone listening to this can't hear the album as well. It really is fantastic. And Michael, thank you so much for coming on the Vinyl Guide.
Yeah, and thank you. And I must say, the reason why I don't listen to my music is because I'm moving forward. You know, I don't get stuck in my past. Mm-hmm. I always create new, and I go within myself, the infinite spring of creativity. That's where everything comes from. And that's how I created a trend that in the 80s, 80% of all guitarists copied my style because it was coming from somewhere they have never known before.
Well, I got to tell you, Michael, in all my years of listening to your music, I got to confirm that that music is being channeled from somewhere. I would say out of any guitarist, I probably get the most goosebumps hearing the work that you've done. And you're the ultimate purist.
Thank you so much for the interview.
Take care of yourself, Michael.
You too. Thank you. Bye-bye.
There we go. The immortal guitar god himself, Mr. Michael Schenker. Again, his album, Immortal. Wow. What a great listen. Pick up a copy at nuclearblastusa.com. There's some vinyl issues. There's some splatters. There's kind of a half black and white one that's kind of his trademark. But again, however you get it, this album is really quite killer. I'm having fun listening to it, and it's so great to hear Michael Schenker do his thing. That's it for this week's episode of The Vinyl Guide. Thank you so much for tuning in. And I especially want to thank all those people who are out there sharing this podcast on social media, Facebook, Instagram, tweeting it out on Twitter. All that helps tremendously. Huge thanks to those of you who are leaving positive reviews on iTunes and Stitcher and giving us 5 out of 5 or 10 out of 10 on these sort of platforms. That's a huge help as well. And a big thanks to all our Patreon supporters. Again, patreon.com/vinylguide. That is a huge help. And thanks to everyone who's helping and sponsoring this show. We'll be back shortly with a brand new episode. So until we talk next time, keep spinning. Cheers.